Okay, welcome to our Moving Forward update, the series of videos where we're just outlining a part of the church's vision and how that's unfolding. And we're doing one every week through the summer. And hopefully you caught last week where we talked about this idea of moving forward as a church and looking at the opportunities the digital world has given us. And that we're not going to go back to how we were meeting, but we're going to kind of move forward in maybe blended ministry where we do physical and digital in terms of what that offers us, in terms of being more accessible and reaching people perhaps who don't normally go to church. But we're still committed to physically meeting when we're allowed to do that. And a key part of our vision for the last number of years as a church has been moving our building from Laburnum Drive to somewhere more visible, more central, and so that everybody knows where we are and we become more accessible. And so our building actually helps our mission rather than hinders it. And a couple of years ago, we bought some land in the centre of Oswestry, plus some buildings at the side of it, and been progressing towards building an auditorium in the centre of town. And as we entered lockdown, we faced three challenges within our building project. We faced a challenge around needing a mortgage. We faced a challenge around having a design that we could afford for the building. And we faced a challenge around selling our existing building. And all those challenges we faced just as we hit lockdown. And we had a real challenge around getting a mortgage. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to get a mortgage to start the building project. We wanted to get that as the first lump of money and then to sell our current building and get other giving and grants as things got going. And in a sense, not surprising, every bank we were speaking to, we were saying, well, we might help you, but we're not going to give the money first. We'll give it last. So get your grants and sell your building and get the church to give more money. And when you just need the mortgage to complete it, then we'll give it to you. And every bank naturally was saying that because they didn't want to carry the risk. And just when we said kind of God's in this, that didn't really seem to carry much weight. And then we entered into lockdown and financial crisis and stock market crash and mortgages are getting withdrawn and all that sort of stuff. Then you would imagine that's the last time, the last opportunity that we would have in terms of any sort of mortgage. But we had one company we were speaking to called Stewardship. And a few weeks into lockdown, I can remember I was sat into my garden and it was a beautiful sunny day and I got a phone call on my mobile. And I answered the phone and it was John Perkins. He's the head of lending at Stewardship. And he said, we've done all the risk analysis. We've investigated all your finances and we want to offer you a mortgage. And it was just unbelievable first obstacle when you thought that it wouldn't happen. Actually, God wanted to offer us a mortgage, which was just brilliant news for us. And I've got John with us. John Baisley, he heads up our building team and has done for the last couple of years. And what did you think, John, when we got that kind of mortgage through a few months ago?
It was a real relief because although I wasn't directly involved in applying for mortgages, it did seem, I was picking up the vibes then that it was quite a difficult process. So when Stewardship came along, it was a real answer to prayer. And I know quite a lot of people have been praying that we would get a mortgage. And so I just saw God's hand in it. And the real blessing with Stewardship is that they don't just want to lend us the money, they want to be in partnership with us. And that's great. So talking to them on the phone, sending emails, I get this real impression that they want to help us achieve the build for the new church. They want to be seen as partners in the new build and not just providing funds in some remote way. So I'm absolutely sure that when lockdown's over, they will, and we've perhaps progressed the building a bit, they will want to come and share with us and see that building. So I just see it as a real answer to prayer.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And although I did the application, I've kind of handed it all over to you now. So you're kind of dealing with stewardship in that. So really grateful for that. And so that was first obstacle we had, and we overcome that. And then we hit a second obstacle, which we had a design which had got planning permission, but actually we couldn't afford it, could we?
That's
and
right.
So then the door seems locked. You know, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
What does happen next, John?
Well, the great thing was that we managed to find Peter Makalaga, who is a Christian and a project manager, and he has been really so helpful because he has the time and has got the ability to really drive the project forward in a way that as a committee we couldn't. We couldn't put that amount of time and that amount of drive into it. So he came along and has taken a real critical look with us. He has helped us to take a critical look at the design, and he's brought on board people who are experts in planning, in structural engineering and things of that nature, and the architect, and he's really helped us develop the plan. Now, it is the same plan in terms of the area it covers, the rooms we've got. It's the same auditorium, the same foyer, toilets, kitchen. What has really changed is the construction and the elevations. And he has enabled us to come up with an achievable building. And that really involves the original plan, the approved plan, had 3 pitched roofs across the main auditorium, which proved very expensive to actually construct. So he has approached the planners, and they seem to be quite happy with a single pitched roof. It's still got to go as an amendment to the plan and be approved formally, but we are trying to go for this single pitched roof, which will save us an awful lot of money in terms of construction costs. So he's already been well worth the effort that we've put into re-examining the plan then. Actually, there's a few technical changes as well that save us money. The types of foundations save us quite a lot of money and things of that nature. But the only visible, or the main visible change, would be the construction of the roof. So we've now got an affordable plan. We've got a mortgage that we're working through, and we are keen to progress the build as fast as possible. But we have got to obtain this formal approval to the amendment, which, God willing, we will come through, well, September. August would be great. Then we can go out for a main contractor, go out for tender, and if we can get a main contractor agreed, perhaps November, December, so that they can start construction. And it's estimated that it would take, once construction has started, approximately 5 months to get a waterproof building. So that would be walls up, roof on, windows in. So the building would not be complete internally, but we would have a waterproof building, and God willing, May next year, I feel that's quite achievable.
Cool. So we got a slightly new design just in terms of the roof. So it's got 1 peak rather than 3 peaks. Absolutely. And that's saved us money so that we can afford it.
Yes.
And we're just waiting for the council to give us the official okay.
Absolutely.
And then you heard it here, John Beasley, May next year, it's going to be watertight.
Don't twist my arm if it's not May. But
but that gives us a sense of possible timescales, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So
So I'm quite excited by that. I really am, and I feel that we are moving forward quite rapidly now.
And Peter, the project manager, he's a Christian, isn't he?
Yes.
So he's got a real heart for what we're doing which helps alongside his professional skills, really.
Internally, it will help as well, because he's got a real understanding of how church functions and the kind of space we need and the facilities that we need.
Yeah.
So that is really good.
Yeah. So we go into lockdown, and we have a mortgage as an issue that gets ticked. We have a design we can't afford, but working with Peter and the council, we think we've got what we can afford. And then we have Laburnum Dry, our building, which has been up for sale for about 12 months. And you enter into lockdown where actually the economy just stops. And it's dropping 20%. It's like the worst recession for a generation. Everything's terrible. And you would imagine that's the time when there's no chance of selling the church, wouldn't you?
You would.
If you looked at any headlines, that's no time you're going to sell a church. So a couple of weeks ago, we get a phone call from the estate agent to say, we've got somebody who wants to have a look at your church. Can they come and have a look? So it's like, okay, yeah, we'll let that in. So guy turns up, and he's a developer, and he's really interested in our building. And the estate agent shows him around, and then I'm here because I'll let him in the building. And then he says, oh, can I come and have a chat with you afterwards? So he comes to see me afterwards, and he chats a few questions about the building and about what he might want to do with it. And then the next day, he rings up and he makes an offer to buy our church. That is a really, really good offer for us.
Very good.
And so we had a chat with advice from the building team and chatted with the leaders, trustees, and decided that we were going to accept that offer. Now it's subject to planning, so the developer, he wants to kind of develop it into residential accommodation, and so he's going to put in for planning permission, and it's only really if he gets planning permission that he'll go ahead with it. But we're just signing a legal agreement with him that we'll take the building off the market, because if he's going for planning permission, he doesn't then want us to sell it to somebody else. And so we've made a 12-month agreement that will give him 12 months to get through the planning permission and then agree the sale. And but I just think that's like incredible, really. You know what I mean? Just when the economy falls apart, you know, God says, well, that's the time I'm going to give you a mortgage. That's the time I'm going to get an agreement to sell your building. Yeah. And, you know, I meet people and people say to me, oh, so your building project, that's probably on hold just now, isn't it? And it's like God's just, every obstacle he's just knocked down almost just to emphasize that actually he's the one in charge. He's been leading this project for the last, 8 years. And every time we've hit a dead end, he's the one who's provided a way out, and just not just about us getting a building, but helping us to learn more about him and following him and trusting him. And so that's pretty exciting as well, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
Really exciting to hear. And so there's the three obstacles we had going into lockdown. And, you know, we need to get the planners to agree our new design. And we need the developer who wants to buy our building, he needs to get planner permission. So there's still a few steps to go, but it's looking really exciting and really positive for us as a church in terms of next year, where we're going to be in terms of our building and what the opportunities that gives us. And I'm really grateful for our building team and all the work that they're doing as part of that. And you're leading the team, John, and I know lots of people are involved and lots of people are working hard. And but you've given a lot of time to this project, haven't you? And you're kind of retired, and you should be living a life of Riley and stuff. Yeah. But why is it that you've agreed to help out, and why is it that you're just given so much time to something like this?
Well, for me, the first step was the church made a decision that it was God's will, and they felt it was God's will to move to the centre of town and build this new church. And so it's always good to move forward in a plan where you feel it is God's will.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we struggle because we seem to be pushing at doors, but in this case we had a definite discernment that it was God's will to move forward in this way. And so it's great to be just part of moving forward in God's plan. But the other reason is that it's not, for me, primarily about building a new building. Of course, that's a stepping stone, but that's what it is. The first step into the town centre to release us in a whole new set of ways in which we can reach people for Jesus, in which we can share Jesus with the people in Oswestry. And so for me, it's a tool. And if we build this tool right and we get it operational, lots of people will have lots of ideas, and God will give us lots of new opportunities to share Jesus with the people in the town. And so that's the primary driver, to share Jesus with the people that we meet.
That's brilliant, John. And in terms of what the experience has been like for you, and it's, you know, it's a massive project, you know, and what have you kind of learned about God and how he works and his purposes as you've kind of been involved with it?
Yeah. I think it's a difficult one to say, what have you learned? Because I would say in terms of absolutely learning something new, perhaps I haven't. experiences have been driven home
Yeah.
in a new way. So the reliance on God, the reliance on prayer, the fact that God's timing is perfect, the timing for the mortgage. You know, we struggle to get a mortgage, and then in God's timing, we get the right people at the right time. The sale has seemed to take a long time, and then, God willing, it will prove to be the right people. But I feel at this time that it does feel right. We've got an offer, again, at the right time. Peter Makalaga really feels like the right person to help us drive this forward. So it is that if we move forward in God's plan, then God will bless it. God will provide the things we need at the right time. And that will be the right solution. That is the way that we should go. So it's reliance on Jesus, reliance on God to provide what we need as long as we're moving forward in his plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I've always felt that it's not just about us getting to the centre of town and doing stuff, that actually God's really interested in how we go through that process around trusting him and sacrificing and overcoming obstacles, and how he strengthens us perhaps as a church and brings us together as everybody kind of plays their part, and how he does that as well.
I think that's absolutely true. I'm sure that, I know we're in lockdown, but when we get in to the building and we see things happening, then it's going to be such a huge boost to us all, and I'm sure God will work through that.
So I hope that update kind of encourages you as you see what God's been doing behind the scenes. And thank you to everybody who's given into our building fund. Particularly thank you for those of you who responded to standing orders, which has helped to get our mortgage, and for those who've given one-off gifts as well. And we'll continue to give into that and trust God to provide. And please pray for that. Pray for the planning permission to go through for our building. Pray for the sale of this one to go through as well. And we really appreciate your support and we appreciate your prayers. And I pray you have a good week and that you'll be encouraged by what God's doing. There's good days ahead.